Azar, Karl, John, and Sergey are the four players left in a singles tennis tournament. They are randomly assigned opponents in the semifinal matches, and the winner of those matches play each other in the final match to determine the winner of the tournament. When Azar plays Karl, Azar will win the match with probability 2/3. When either Azar or Karl plays either John or Sergey, Azar or Karl will win the match with probability 3/4. Assume that outcomes of different matches are independent. The probability that Karl will win the tournament is P/Q, where P and Q are relatively prime positive integers. Find P plus Q. Okay, so we have a tournament and we're in the semifinals of this tournament, and we have these four players: Azar, Karl, John, and Sergey. And we're imagining that we're Karl and we want to find the probability that we will win the tournament given these conditions. So Karl does not want to play Azar because Karl will only win with probability 1/3 because Azar wins with probability 2/3. The other two opponents, John and Sergey, are more favorable because Karl will win against them with probability 3/4. So what do we do? Let's do some case-work counting to determine what the probability that Karl will win the tournament is. So we have two cases for what's going to happen in the semifinals, because remember the players are randomly paired against each other in the semifinals. So we have case one, Karl plays Azar in the semifinals. C plays A in the semis. What's the probability that that happens? Well, the probability that that happens is 1/3 because there are three possible opponents for Karl to choose for Karl to play in the semifinals. Azar is just one of them, so the probability that Azar will be chosen to play Karl is 1/3. So let me write that down there. And then after that, what's the probability that Karl wins the tournament? Well, first of all, Karl's playing Azar in the semis, so Karl will win with probability 1/3. That's how he'll make it to the finals. There was a third chance Karl would play Azar at all, 1/3 chance that he wins. Karl advances to the semifinals. No matter if he plays John or Sergey, Karl will win with probability 3/4. So he wins with probability 3/4. So the probability that he wins both of his matches is 1/3 times 3/4, which is 1/4. Remember, the probability that Karl played Azar in the semis was 1/3. So eventually we're going to multiply those two together to get 1/12. But I'm not going to do it right here because it's not the final calculation. So after we calculate this case, Karl plays Azar, we go to our other case, which predictably is case 2. C does not play A. C does not play A in the semifinals. C doesn't play A in semis. 2/3 is the probability that Karl does not play Azar in the semis, because the probability that Karl did play Azar in the semifinals was 1/3. So what's the probability that Karl wins the tournament? So Karl is going to be matched up against either John or Sergey, and Karl will win with probability 3/4. So I'm going to put 3/4 actually in the same red color because we're going to branch into two subcases. Subcase 1, C meets A in the finals anyway. And the other subcase is C does not meet A. And how would that happen? Well, it would happen if Karl wins his semifinal and then Azar loses his semifinal to John or Sergey. That's when Karl would not meet Azar in the finals, or really at all. So what's the probability that, so we already specified that 3/4 is the probability that Karl will win. What's the probability that his finals opponent will be Azar? Well, it's the probability that Azar won his match, which was 3/4. Azar beats John or Sergey with probability 3/4. So 3/4 is the probability that this case happens at all. And the probability that this case does not happen is if Azar is somehow upset, which happens with probability 1/4. So now what happens is you have to calculate the probability that Karl wins if he plays Azar, which we already specified was 1/3. So I'm going to multiply this 3/4 by 1/3. If Karl does not meet Azar in the finals, Karl's going to play the other one of John or Sergey in the finals, which he wins with probability 3/4. So now we have our final calculations to do. So the probability that Karl plays Azar in the semifinals and wins against Azar and wins in the finals is 1/3 times 1/4, which is 1/12. The probability that Carl does not play Azar in the semifinals was 2/3 times the probability that Carl won his semifinal, 3/4, times the probability that he met Azar in the final plus the probability that he didn't meet Azar in the final and that he won. So it's 3/4 times 1/3 that he plays Azar and wins, 1/4 times 3/4 the probability that he does not play Azar in the finals and wins his finals. So this is our final answer, and we just have to simplify this. That's 1/12 plus 2/3 times 3/4 is 1/2. 1/2 times 3/4 plus 1/3 is 1/4. 1/4 plus 3/4 is 3/16. So I'm going to write this over a common denominator. 1/4 becomes 4/16. So 4/16. So this is equal to 1/12 plus 1/2 times 7/16, which is 1/12 plus 7/32. And we can express this over a common denominator. This is 8/96. This is 21/96. You add them up, you get 29/96. And because 29 and 96 are relatively prime, your final answer is 29 plus 96, which is equal to 125. And we are done. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.